Rule Galloway, Spinners of Yarns podcast with Chris Lowe.
Indeed.
Ex of the Apostles.
The Apostles, aye.
The Parkinsons. The Oi Polloi.
Oi Polloi, Political Asylum, Quango. Who else? Someone else I'm forgetting. Part 1. Aye. A fair roster.
Disc jockey, photographer, journalist. Many other things too.
Yeah, Chadser.
Aren't we all? So it's kind of like, where were you born? Were you born in right back at the beginning in Stirling?
Aye, sort of round about there, or Dublin maybe. I'm not really quite sure where I was actually born, to be honest. It's one of these things. It's kind of like when my mum was there, I was just kind of thinking, oh, there's one thing you never told me, by the way. Where is it? And she's just kind of, more morphine. So I never actually found out where I was born. But basically, I remember spending a very, very early time of life in Bewley Street in Dublin. So it might have been there, and then we moved to Stirling when I was about 18 months old or something.
Okay.
And then basically just grew up in Stirling, so I was in Stirling until 1986 when I moved through to Edinburgh.
Yeah, and obviously, I mean, it's different for me because when me moving to Scotland in '78, it was a big culture clash. Yes. Totally different.
Where's you from? You're originally from yourself?
From Middlesbrough.
Right.
We were living in Nottinghamshire at that point, or just outside Mansfield, and moving to Scotland, it was a totally different culture. But if you were grown up in there, you kind of like that's your, your social conditioning.
Yes, indeed.
So you kind of like, when did music come about? Because you got into punk quite early on.
I got into punk crazy early, like about 78 or something. And I was actually thinking about this the other day. What it was, I remember being outside the Thistle Centre in Stirling and seeing some of the first punks I ever saw. Yeah. And then I later saw that one of them was actually Mary, who was the bass player guitarist in the Fakes. Right. And so I probably maybe like her and Johnny and maybe a few other folk. I remember seeing them outside the Stirling shopping centre, with all like, I remember one of them had like a kind of yellow like oilskin kind of jacket. I can still remember it, like yellow kind of, but obviously just looking like, they'd been beamed down from outer space or something. It was just like, fucking hell. And when you're a kid, you're like, oh, I want to be like that. And then maybe like the next weekend or the weekend after, there was, I think it was like the Observer or something, one of the colour supplements had really one of these iconic features on punk, like a cover feature, loads of photos and stuff like that. I remember seeing that and I remember thinking like, oh, this is for me. So I kind of like I remember like sticking safety pins in like all my clothes, just like just sticking safety pins. What are you doing that for, son? I'm a punk mom. I'd never even heard any punk music or anything. I think it was like a good while afterwards that I actually even heard punk music. But then again, the house we grew up in overlooked Bridge of Allen, the youth club. Basically, on the other side of the wall was the youth club, where they had the discos every Friday and Saturday. Yeah. So, I just basically sit and look out my window, because you'd always see fights and you'd always see like folk kind of like shagging between the cars at night after the disco and stuff as well. So that's basically what I used to do, and you'd also hear all the music. Yeah. So I'd be hearing. You'd hear these things, and it was only like, later you actually kind of realise, oh, these are punk songs and stuff, Yeah. So you'd be hearing all the sort of classics and everything like that. But also, stuff like Donna Summer, I Feel Love, and all kind of disco things. So I think that's what really kind of informed my taste in music. Yeah. Kind of the distorted sounds of punk basically being filtered through like a wall up to like my window. Yeah. And kind of like, electronic dance music, which is basically what's I've kind of stuck with for the past 45 years or something. Yeah, because I moved to Livingston at the middle of '78, and the first thing I really saw was like young kids, a bit older than me. I was 12 at that point, and they all had kind of like Chance 69. Big badges,
written on the shirts with a bit of a tear and the big badges, because it was about big badges at that point. And you then slowly you the attraction is kind of, I suppose, fitting in more than
exactly. I mean, that's the other thing. It's like, again, trying to like kind of explain this to people. It's basically about then, as you know yourself, there was two things you were into. It was like football and music. Yeah. And I was never really into football. I was never really a football guy. So it was just like music was my big thing. Yeah. And also the other thing was the house we grew up in. There was like, so there was like basically like shared back garden, and it was like 4 houses. And 2 of them were like the Bocelli brothers, who've got the Bridge of Allen fish and chip shop, and they were into punk as well. Yeah. So immediately we'd be, that's what you know, you'd sort of be pooling your resources. You know, one of you would buy like UK Subs album one week, next week someone would get the Angelic Upstarts album, and then you'd kind of tape them and you'd be around each other's houses all the time.
Yeah.
And then there was like, in the estate just across, there was like John Cummings and loads of, I mean, there was just, you know, a small place like that, like Bridge of Allen, just a mile or two from Stirling. Loads and loads and loads of punks. Yeah. Amazing, you know.
Yeah. And it was quite easy to dress yourself as
well
back then.
Exactly. There was none of the...
You didn't have to buy Vivienne Westwood kind of like clothes, you know?
No, I mean, that's the thing, it's just like, you look at, you know, sometimes you'll see these photographs posted on Instagram and folk will be saying things like, oh no, that's definitely like the post-punk style, that these photos would be like probably 1980 or 81. I was going, nah, you're talking piss, that is just how people looked in 1978.
Yeah.
You know, you'd be lucky if even you had like kind of tight trousers and stuff. I remember, you know, like trying to get my mum to take in, you know, I've got like photos of me, but I just have these kind of like flary brown cords. And then, so I was just saying, you know, so basically, one week you'd be walking about with, you know, your plimsolls, you know, your sort of gutties, and like big flary cords, and the next week, you know, you'd have got your mum to take your big flary cords in, so you'd have really kind of awkward, skin-tight, brown flary cords, and a pair of like Dunlop Green Flash, and, you know, just some. And you'd have sort of scrawled like kind of Sham 69, stuck loads of safety pins in, maybe like nicked some zips off an old pair of trousers and just kind of stuff. I've got amazing photos like that. And also crazy, I've actually got a really cracking photo of me and the Bocelli brothers in our garden just outside our houses. And you know, things like, you know, things which, because you were a kid, you would have these things. That's something I realised. So basically Neil Bocelli's got, you know, stuff from the Joke Shop, like hanging off his jacket, like safety pinned, like a big skeleton and stuff like that. And I've got like a kind of monster from like an Airfix. You know, you get these, you make up a dinosaur, I've got like a kind of dinosaur hanging off my belt and stuff. Just mad, but absolutely fantastic, brilliant stuff.
I mean, we'd go through phases of kind of like sewing on zips onto trousers. Yeah. And I think that probably why I changed from a punk to a skinhead is because I could wear that all the time.
Yeah.
I kind of like I always felt when my punk stuff always came out for the school disco once a month on the Friday night, you know, and I kind of like, I suppose, I dressed obviously in a kind of fashion, but I think because you could wear that uniform a bit more regularly.
Yeah, it's a much more utilitarian look.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's I mean, tying into that, one of the things I just thought, another thing I remember thinking was just like an absolute kind of genius stroke of Bushells was like the invention of like kind of Herberts, that kind of thing. Obviously, you know, I mean, you know, it's like people will say, oh, he claimed to have invented skinheads. No, he never did any of that, but he did invent Herberts as a actual kind of specific subcultural group, subculture. Within sort of punk or skinhead.
But there was never really a definition, was it? It was a wide thing to cover anybody who wasn't a punk.
Yeah, who wasn't a punk, but also
like punk.
But who wouldn't let, you know, their parents wouldn't let them get like spiky hair or a crop. Basically, to be a Herbert, all you need to do is just like have a Harrington, maybe put on a cloth cap. But the funny thing is, I remember at really early Oi Polloi gigs, there's loads of their mates from school. They said obviously like kind of cottoned on at their school or whatever, and obviously loads of their mates from school weren't punks. Yeah. But so you'd go along, and there were like 20 or 30 sort of 14-year-olds there, you know, Harringtons with like flat caps, and they'd obviously just nicked off their granddad, and they'd have like, we are the Herberts. And it's really bizarre. In Tokyo now, there's like you know, as you can imagine, the way they're so into like their youth culture and everything like that, there's now like a kind of Herbert scene in Tokyo. There's even like a Herbert clothes shop. Yeah, called Herberts.
Because Deep formed a band, didn't he?
Yeah, the Four Herberts.
The Four Herberts.
And what was their song? It was all like kind of Foreskins and Last Resort covers, like We Are Herberts in State Press. I think it's We Are Herberts in Harrington. And that's what it was, Herberts and Harringtons instead of Skinheads and State Press. The Four Herberts. So Herbert sound music.
So going back to '78, you kind of like you went to a punk gig earlier than me, and I'm older than you. You saw Sham 69, didn't you?
Yeah.
'78.
Yeah. I think it was actually '79. It was basically
the Sham Pistols.
The Sham Pistols. It was just when it was meant to be Sham's last stand. Yeah. Which they wanted, and following the trouble at the Rainbow Ballroom, I think it was.
I think the Rainbow was after.
Oh, was it? Maybe. I think it was. Well, basically, they'd had this. They were going to be splitting up or something like that, and they were always having these farewell gigs in London, which would always end up in chaos and smashed up. So I think on this occasion they decided to have their farewell show in Glasgow Apollo, and this was just after the Sex Pistols had split up. Yeah. And so you can imagine, you know, like first gig, you know, you're just like, oh, fucking hell, she's amazing. But I was banging the Sham 69 at the time. So, and then, you know, that's like good enough. You know, that's just like absolute. One of the things you can't really put into words is how exciting it is like that when you're a kid. But then the next thing is like Steve Jones and Paul Cook come on stage for the encore, and they do like, I think it was White Riot they opened with, and did Pretty Vacant, and you know, a few of the kind of like Pistols classics and stuff like that. It was just incredible, absolutely amazing gig. But before that, I'd actually been to what's subsequently been reported as the Stirling Punk Festival. Although it wasn't really a Stirling Punk Festival, it was essentially like Rag Week at the university, and there was like a load of Stirling punk bands, and some from a bit further away, like I think the Cuban Heels played, maybe the Cheetahs, in Edinburgh or somewhere, Glasgow or something, kind of outside there, all playing on top of the roof. And was it the Ghana gig? It was just basically the Students' Union. They had like a roof where all the bands were playing on there, and the Fakes were playing there, and Jamesy at the Fakes, bass player in the Fakes, actually lived in the house next door to us. Okay. There was this house next door to us, which was known as the kind of hairy house, because it was generally kind of like hippies who lived there. Jamesy was just like classic kind of skinhead then anyway. But there is some of the other, it's like the drummer from that band, Shoe Peru, who were like the Scottish Captain Beefheart or something. Real kind of like freeform, kind of like
where were they from?
They're from Stirling.
From Stirling,
yeah. But they supported the Rosillas a few times, which was quite strange. They recorded like a fake album. It was meant to be recorded at Glasgow Apollo, but it wasn't. It was a studio album. But their drummer, Dave, he lived next door. That was the first time I think I ever did go on a drum kit. He used to have like this really enormous, big, kind of like 70s proggy style drum kit. So I think that must have been an influence as well.
So that's when you took up drumming then?
No. I didn't really take up drums till I was 11.
Right, okay. So Sham was 79,
yeah, so
79, you were 9.
Nine. Yeah. But that's, you know, the other thing is, people say, oh, how could you be going to gigs when you're 9 and stuff? That wasn't like an uncommon thing then. Yeah. You know, it's basically within that year I'd have seen Sham, Pistols, Clash, Skids, and I saw Crass in 1980. First time I saw Crass I'd have been about 10 or something, Stirling Albert Hall. Yeah. But loads of my mates, loads of my mates would be going on these gigs. At these gigs you'd see loads of other folk of a similar age. Yeah. It wasn't like, it was just very, very different. It was just loads of young kids who went into punk. And funnily enough, I was just seeing that film Dance Craze is getting a DVD release recently. And I remember watching that, I remember seeing that and thinking, you know, and pointing out, I said, look at all the kids on the stage when you see like the footage of two-tone gigs and stuff. I remember seeing the two-tone tour of Stirling University as well. I was 79 or something, I'd been about 9. Look at all these kids, they all look about 8 or 9. It's because they were about 8 or 9. It was just loads of kids. And it's particularly the two-tone thing as well, I remember. Loads of really young kids into that. Because even I remember kind of thinking like, that's for kids, ska's for kids, because I'm like kind of 10 now, and you're like you're not even into double figures. You know, my mates, we brothers are about 7 and stuff, wearing like pork pie hats. Crazy.
Because I remember it must have been 79, and the two-tone tour just being at Scotland. Yeah. And they did a night in Mid-Calder.
Yeah, I know.
Mid-Calder of all places. And two of the older lot, who were 4 years older than us, George and Jings, they were doing the Chaz Smash. Banging the head things. And when you're 12, you're like, fuck.
I know. And then basically the week after that two-tone gig up, like everybody at every school disco across the land was probably doing all that. I totally remember it.
Did you have, because at our school we had certain records that were banned from playing. The Can was banned.
All right.
You know, because it just caused chaos. The Piranhas was banned because of the football song that would come up afterwards. Right. You know. Did you have songs like that?
No. I just remember there was always just like, sometimes you just hear, alright Miss Gurvis, and someone had managed to sneak flicking and the rigging on. I kind of like School Johnny, they kind of rushing over and grabbing it off and putting like Brotherhood of Man or whatever it was on in its place. So the birthday song.
We were like probably about 4 punk songs in a night at the school discos. Yeah. And I do remember Of One Skin being kind of like one of the most popular punk songs in 79, 1980, because it speeded up. Yes. And when you're a young kid, you can go mad and then just calm down and then go mad again. You know. But they were always quite important back then to get yourself acclimatised to, adulthood.
Yes, indeed. You know. Well, it's your negotiating your territory as a as an adolescent coming into like teenage years, and all the kind of like chaos, angst that goes with that.
Yeah, but one of the things that was happening around back then, there were so many new bands coming through, there were many new genres coming through. Because, obviously punk was punk, and then after that you had the new wave, but then you had the second wave of punk bands, like the Rejects and the Starts and the Ruts, and then kind of like after that it all started getting breaking up.
Yes, very true. But for a really kind of wonderful period, probably around about 1980, it was just kind of like all punk music. You go and see Crash one week, and then you go to like the Edinburgh nightclub and see like the Four Skins the next week, and you'd see lots of the same kind of folk. And there wasn't like any of that kind of sectarian demarcation between the the sort of subcults.
But at that point.
Although I actually think that kind of tribalist element is also integral to the development of subcultures in a lot of ways.
One of the things I saw Crass when they did the nightclub, the under 18.
I wasn't to that one.
The under 18 gig, and I remember I couldn't connect with the band at all because I felt they was too old for me.
And they've got these voices that sound like school teachers and stuff, and it's just like...
There were these old men on stage, and I'm like, hold on, and I can remember specifically just moving back from the front. Just moving back and just kind of like just not connecting with the band at all. I think also the military kind of like all black, the television, the banners, it felt as if they were preaching to me, and I was just like, it's not really what I come to a music gig for.
Very true. But I'm bringing that's quite a kind of like developed perspective on it, which even like a year or two of mental and emotional development provides you with. But I remember one of the things which really kind of amazed me was when I went to see them at Stirling Albert Hall, and I think that was maybe like it was fairly early 1979 or 80. But what I remember is basically only a few months before. I'd been taken by the school to see Joseph and his Technicolor Dreamcoat, this Christian sort of theatre production at the same venue. So like there was that, and then a few months later it's like Crass singing like So What, and I don't know if they did Reality Asylum at the time, I don't think so, but you know what I mean? It was just like that. And then the only other time I'd been to that was to see Giant Haystacks, Big Daddy and Giant Haystacks at the wrestling one Saturday. My uncle took me.
We've had this conversation before. We had Andy Robbins.
Yes, of course. Grizzly Robbins.
He did it twice, and he kept putting, the next time I come, I'll bring Hercules. And he never bought Hercules. He did it twice. He never ever bought Hercules. But we were all pulled into it, like, he's bringing Hercules. We'll get tickets for the next one.
Well, he was just up kind of Sheriff Muir up in Stirling. So there used to be this place. It was right by Bevyhead. There was this place, the Royal Hotel, and you get off the school bus, and sometimes they'd be like, used to have this trailer thing with Hercules just on the back of but with, like the wire. It was, I don't know what you call it, just like this sort of cage, but quite large chunks. I was always quite surprised then. And you get off the bus, so obviously there's about 40 kids trying to stick their fingers in and like getting sticks and fucking give Hercules a poke out to like buy whatever his name's hands off. I'm really amazed that nobody ever did. But then when he kept on escaping, remember he'd keep on escaping, and it's kind of fine. I don't know whether he was kind of drugged up on or something. The kind of lethargic bear, slothfully kind of like wrestling the drunk Andy Robbins. Oh, glorious. 70s entertainment, can't beat it.
I mean, like I said, he performed twice, and it was just really, it wasn't entertaining. But you got sucked into it. So when did he take up playing the drums then?
When I was 11. I got, I still remember this. When the Fakes split up, Jamesy and Johnny and a couple of other folk formed a band called New Youth. I think their drummer was called Les. I went to one of the practices once. I genuinely can't remember if the first drum kit I got was Les's drum kit, or I got it from Roadshow Music anyway, which was just a wee kind of like music shop, and he used to do second-hand records in Bridge of Allen, just off the main street in Bridge of Allen. And that was a brilliant place. It's basically just every day you'd go up there, hoping there would be like new second-hand records. Some of my first records I ever owned I actually bought from there, and first drum equipment I ever had, I got from there as well. And the first drum kit I got, actually, thinking about it, probably wasn't Les's, but the first drum kit I got, oh my god, it was like such a piece of utter piss. It was about maybe like £20, and I think I had one cymbal. I had a cymbal. No, I didn't have a cymbal. I had a hi-hat, which I didn't. Cause that's the other thing. It's like when I took the drums, I just suddenly decided I wanted drum. Angelic Upstart's Police Oppression. I remember that's the first song that I remember listening to and just thinking, like the drums are the best bit on it. And I just remember I used to listen to that and just kind of, I'd set up like a wee drum kit with like books and it was a Cadbury's assortment. The lid of that. And I kind of have and then basically my mum said, oh, there's this drum kit going. So I got that, and it didn't have a bass pedal.
Right, okay.
So I'd been technically like drumming and playing Political Asylum. Played my first two or three gigs before I even knew that a drum kit was meant to have a bass pedal. I remember in 1982 being down at the Centro Iberico watching Conflict, and that's the first time when I ever actually noticed that there was something else going on. And I remember looking and seeing Paco and seeing his foot going, and goes, oh, there's that bass pedal thing, what's that all about? And telling my mate Hoolan, who lived in one of the houses across from me. I thought, aye. So I went down to see, I've seen this band Conflict, and oh man, that drummer's fucking amazing. But he had this kind of mad, he was standing in this thing and it was like kind of hitting the big drum, and it goes, aye, that's a bass pedal. And I was going, oh, what's that? I goes, aye, you don't know? I said, no. I mean, the first part, I remember there's a recording in Kill Your Pet Puppy of about the third or fourth Political Asylum gig, and that was the first gig when I had a bass pedal. And I'd actually learned how to use a bass pedal. But up to then, I didn't know anything about 4/4s or no ability and not even any kind of interest in having any. It's like I'd never watched drummers. I'd never watched, kind of Mitch Mitchell or these seminal drummers. Bill Ward, everything like that. All these kind of drummers that later on you're kind of nicking your fills from and all that. I was just I just do the old kind of Mo Tucker. Sort of caveman bongo drums, just basically just do that on the drums and then kind of hit the hi-hat every now and again like a cymbal and just do whatever, as you can hear on the Every Political Asylum recordings.
So you learning to play the drums, but you started coming to London quite young. Similar, because I started coming to London when I was 14, because it was more exciting than Livingston and Edinburgh.
And you just bunk trains down as well.
And at that point, there was no punk gigs in Scotland. I think after that Exploited gig at the nightclub, that was it. There was no punk gigs in Edinburgh really happened.
No, right enough actually. It was quite well, apart from those big things you'd get. Those kind of like Gathering of the Clans type tours with Crone Gen, Vice Squad, all those. Good gigs, but
we never got in.
It
all kicked off outside.
But generally all kicked off inside as well. They were mad. But that's another thing is just back then every gig you go to you'd expect there to be chaos and big fights to sort of kick off and stuff like that. If you were to go out somewhere now and you saw violence of that level of brutality. There's no way would you even go back to the place. Probably wouldn't even go to that town again.
But the other thing that I remember quite early on was, and if I was a singer in a band, I'd be straight in the audience kicking off. Is how much spitting went on at gigs. You know what I mean? And I was involved in it. You'd be like, and he's just you're like, why? You know what I mean?
That's what punks do.
But it's just like, why? I'd be like, what the fuck?
I can't remember where it was I saw an Anxiety. Maybe it was that last Wade gig, last Wade Community Centre outside Edinburgh or something, where the Poison Girls Total Exposure. And they played two gigs. They played like an afternoon show. I think it was on the second gig. Afternoon show was alright. I think it was in the second gig, just any anxiety, just being. Because I remember and it's one of these things. As years have gone on, what my music tastes become a bit more kind of like, avant-garde and experimental as it was back then. But I was always like really mesmerised by an anxiety. Everybody was like, oh, she's fucking shite, just fucking garbage. But I was always like quite kind of mesmerised by her performances and just trying to like work out what she was doing and everything. But I remember at that gig, she was just hanging. It's like the kind of end of like one of these Japanese bukkake videos or something. She was just like hanging on spit, just like all over it. I was like, fucking hell, man.
I don't understand it now. You know what I mean? Now I'm a bit older. I'm like, why did we do that? You feel a bit embarrassed that was your.
I know. And terrible things as well. I also remember being at a Skids gig, and there was one of these barriers between the crowd and the stage. And there was all these security. I'm just like so gawping at the security guys. I'm just imagine that's kind of like horrible, So basically, you're just like captive. And there's all these like young kids, literally about 10 or 11. So you can't just like kind of smack them in the face. You're not going to do that. You're not going to get any like bravery awards for sort of smacking a 10-year-old. Or you're just like, shocking behaviour.
But even walking on the street between the ages of 11 and 15, I'd be spitting all over the place.
Spitting's one of these things that's kind of like, where did spitting go? And I was listening, it's constantly sort of going like, sort of going, Oh, just all the ways you'd kind of do it, is how like the jet and like the wee flick.
Yeah, the little flick.
Yeah. And holding your fags like that inside your hand.
But that would also be after the school disco. We'd go down the Chippy, down the High Street in Deans and the Main Street, and somebody would buy a bottle of ginger.
Yeah.
And somebody would drink it before you could have an opportunity. They'd always put a floater in there just to stop you from drinking it. So you'd see it, you'd be like, no, I'm not having that, you have that. You know what I mean? So you had to get the first drink in before you offered it.
Your bar's ginger.
Yeah. But you did a fanzine as well, didn't you, when you were young?
Aye.
How did that come about? What was your thinking? What was your inspiration?
I'll tell you exactly what inspiration was. There was, I remember one Saturday afternoon going to the other record shop in Stirling, and they used to have this table with just books. I mean, prior to that, I think I'd only ever got In the Gutter there, and Julia Burchill, Tony Wilson, Parsons. Boiled to Johnny.
Yeah.
And then one Saturday there was fanzines there, and I got the Toxic Graffiti, was it issue 4 or 5, maybe 5. It was the one prior to the Flexi Disc, the Flexi Disc issue, and it had like the Erratics, maybe Flux, a band called the Heretics, who never released anything, but who just looked like mental, like a million times mental than any band you'd ever seen in your life. Yeah. Which was just like, and then like the visual aspect of it's so incredible. People might kind of denigrate that and sort of play it down, but that's pish. It was really, really important. If you'd seen some, generally, if you had your kind of pocket money and there wasn't like a Discharge record or Vice Squad or something you wanted to buy, you just go for basically whoever looked most mental, whoever had like a big studded jacket, best kind of spiky hair standing against a brick wall, kind of looking hard. You think, I'll risk my 60 pence on that. Yeah. But I digress.
The fanzine.
So I got these fanzines. One of them was that Toxic Graffiti. There was also a Kill It Pet Puppy with Ants issue. And there was another one, Sunday the 7th, which I later was actually done by a guy, was it Martin or something, who became involved in like the Apostles and like the early kind of Centro Iberico and that kind of thing. And I had the Discharge interview in it as well. And at that time, you'd always write off to bands. If it was an address, you'd always write off to bands. Sometimes, like the UK subs, you'd get fuck all back. Maybe sometimes you get like a few stickers or something. Discharge, you got this Q&A sheet, like a patch with I want to grow up, not blow up, which you'd kind of safety pin in your jacket or whatever. And a few photos and stuff like that, which was actually better than most bands. Crash you'd always get stuff from. You'd always get like a few badges and loads of flyers and like a kind of very well written, detailed letter. But yeah, I got all these fanzines, and I think in a lot of ways the fanzines actually in some ways made more of an impact than all of the actual music. I think it was the fanzines were the aspect to it all that I kind of engaged with most. I think I'd always liked writing. I've always I've always just really, really enjoyed writing. English was about English and art were the only things I was any good at school. So I quite quickly I think I just decided I wanted to do my own fanzine, and then because I'd only seen such a small number of fanzines prior to that, I think you've not really got that many reference points. So I think I did a thing on. I just basically reviewed all the Discharge records. I think just Only Why had just come out quite recently at that time. So I just reviewed all the different songs, just my own, just like really crap, record reviews written by an 11-year-old or whatever, and wrote off to Crass, who to their great credit answered my very kind of naive and repetitive and crap questions. And who else probably did a thing on like some local bands. I mean, I did 3 issues of the fanzine. I featured the Fakes, local bands, just kind of mates bands from school and things like that. Just loads of record reviews, gig reviews, but a very Catholic and broad-based representation of the punk scene then. So I could be featuring the Alternative or something, and I'd also have the Exploited, for instance. So I'd kind of have anarcho bands and the bands that were at that time you get oi bands, you wouldn't call them, but street punk as a kind of genre didn't really exist then, I don't think. You call them bushel bands. We used to call them bushel bands.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So you get that. By the third issue, I got totally, kind of immersed in the, anarcho-punk scene and sort of culture and everything like that. So the third issue of the fanzine is a more kind of like a rote anarcho zine with, Conflict, Crash, Rebella Valley, Alternative, blah, 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 A to Z of fanzines, articles on, why you don't want to go fox hunting, and all these things which are really of great relation to the general demographic of you buying the fanzine.
I remember...
don't participate in the apartheid regime, things like that.
I remember a family friend's son being round at our flat in Edinburgh with my dad and his dad, and he was advocating community shoplifting.
Yeah.
And we just ripped the piss out of him for 2 hours. Apologies if you see this. But it was quite funny because he says that it couldn't work. What I mean? It comes to a point where all the food runs out. It's just like, you have to have some kind of structure.
And some entrepreneurs got it on, and it's like for double the price.
Yeah.
There you go.
So it was quite idealistic, anarcho-punk.
Oh yeah, totally, 100%. I mean, that's the whole... That's why, I've always said, after 1984, even a good while before 1984, essentially when Crass were kind of on the way out, it all just kind of dissipated then. Yeah. And then you almost got this, it was kind of like basically, who's going to basically fill Crass's throne? And it was almost like a parallel with what you got in the late 80s with Oasis and Blur, sort of acrimony. You've got the way it's kind of portrayed as like the arty, more kind of middle class Chumbawamba, which I understand wasn't actually really the case as well. But that's kind of how it was perceived. Yeah. And the more lumpen sort of Conflict. Yeah. Which is probably fairly accurate at the time to an extent as well. But neither of them really had that much appeal. I think by that time, you just kind of move away from it. By the time I was like 13, 14, you're into you're just into kind of smoking hash and kind of getting off with girls and stuff, Yeah. And you realise that if you're playing in some anarcho-punk band, you've not really got much chance like that. So we ended up kind of getting into Japan and, kind of bleaching our hair and kind of wearing eyeliner and long coats and stuff. Got a lot more finger sex. I managed to smoke a lot more draw sort of doing that. But
that was, for me it was different areas, because as soon as I moved to Edinburgh, my musical taste started to change. This is beginning of '83, and even then 6 months later I moved to Manchester, and it was Manchester was really just black music, electro, hip hop, and soul, funk.
Yes.
So you kind of you evolve. Yes. It's not something that's what I'm into tonight. Just slowly over a period, you get acclimatised to
exactly.
new music.
But I mean, as you say, it was. In every aspect, it's very, very kind of basic music. Yeah. And I think basic music appeals to people who haven't really got that, their musical tastes aren't really that developed as mine weren't. It's literally punk was a sort of, ground zero. Yeah. When I got into music, the first music I ever got into was punk. I was aware of actually just liking a couple of songs before punk. Yeah. I remember what they call Dead End Kids. Did a song, you've got the right to kind of perennial basic roller support act. I remember thinking that was really good. I remember not even school discos, basically the last day of term when the teacher had put on the radio and you'd get cups of orange juice and stuff. I remember enjoying that song, having a wee kind of boogie about to that. But it's very, very kind of basic music and also very kind of naive political ideas. Which... And again, that's why if you went to see Crash back then, as you know yourself, the majority of the audience, average age would probably be 15 or something. Yeah. And looking back now, to me it would be a very, very strange thing for somebody to get into Crash. Yeah. Past the age of 18 or something, because what can you really relate to? Obviously, by that time you'll realise all of these ideas are, let us just say, fairly simplistic and probably inapplicable in a social, economic, or cultural context. Yeah. To be generous and diplomatic. Yeah. But when you're that young, it's maybe just the extremity of the ideas and how kind of detached they are from what you understand as how it's essentially just very, very easy answers. Very easy answers to incredibly complex economic and political and social issues, which you have no comprehension of when you're that age, and you have no desire to. It's you know, you'll get these people. I remember, like, I think it was Ian Rose or someone. He was talking to like some gig or something, talking to like some sort of young anarchist kids, and the guy was going about, oh yeah, he's Spain, you know, 1936 in Spanish Civil War, and there was the FAI and the CNT, and Ian was just like, do you actually know the process to get somebody elected as an MP? No. He's going, you might want to kind of learn about that. You know, it's just that, but you had no knowledge of these things. It wasn't until I did like politics at college that I learned anything, but you had no interest in it. Yeah. Because it's just, I suppose it's not exciting. And when you're a kid, the bottom line is you just want to get into stuff that's exciting and your mates are into and stuff like that. And once it sort of became not really 1983, I think kind of even after like the Falcons or something, I think things changed just a wee bit. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And also other things coming on which perhaps seemed more fun, more exciting, and you get into other bands. Thanks a lot, mate. Like, I think it's probably until the mid-80s when I'd even heard the likes of the Stooges or the Velvet Underground. Yeah,
MC5.
MC5, another example. I mean, I remember hearing New York Dolls one time and just thinking, this is fucking shite. You know, even the Ramones I never liked. Yeah. But I remember hearing all these kind of like seminal New York, you know, these influences, you know, the first funk bands, you know, was it MC5, was it like, you know, hearing that in the mid-80s, and by that time, you know, you think, oh, this is a lot cooler, this is a lot kind of sexier, this is just a lot better really than dirt or something.
But it was all for me, it was all about having a voice, wasn't it?
Exactly.
And I think that was where electro came in. It was street music. In my streets in Livingston, punk was what we listened to. You know, and then you moved to Manchester, and the music of the streets there was electro.
Oh, exactly. When all the Street Signs albums came out, that's what I remember. Like on the school bus, someone would always the ghetto bus, and it was always like, oh, he's got electro, like, number 7's out next week. Yeah. Hello, mate. How's it going?
How are you?
Can I get you anything?
No.
You're okay? So I was totally banging into the electro albums when they came out, and then obviously from that, you know, like a year or two later, there's the first kind of proto house records coming over. Yeah. And by '87, you're like banging to house, and then acid and Detroit techno and everything like that. Yeah.
But it was a bit later than '87. You know, it's kind of like certainly in Edinburgh, maybe jumping the gun a bit. You know, the midweek acid club.
Yes, Wednesday at Shady Ladies.
That must have been '88 or maybe '89.
Peter's thing. That was '88, definitely.
You know, that was probably the first club that I'd heard house music all the way through. You know, because Yogi, for example, would mix things up with a bit of house, a bit of hip hop, a bit of soul,
and you get like James Brown tracks, you know. And Spanish albums like that as well, and Kangaroo Club too.
But going back, just whilst we're still on punk, so did you join the Apostles, or were you?
I joined the Apostles. I'd been in Political Asylum prior to that. Played their first gigs with them. Recorded the Fresh 8 demo tape. And then I was down in London. Actually, I'd just been over to Paris with my mum, and she went back to work, and I was just like, I'll go and stay with the kind of folk I've been writing to, the Apostles. Went down to stay with them. Went into the studio with Andy and the members of that band, the Assassins of Hope, because Mike and Leon, who were the two brothers in the Assassins of Hope, I believe one of them's now in that band, Refuse All. They were just wanting to record another demo tape, and Andy said he'd sing and play guitar on it. So I went into the studio with them, and at the time, the Apostles had actually had Razzle, who had been in the dark and had just he just joined us by Hanoi Rocks. So it was Razzle, who was in Hanoi Rocks, was actually drumming for the Apostles at this time. But I think it was around about the time Hanoi Rocks were taking off, and had just got signed. So Razzle obviously had to, did the right decision, obviously. That's a bit of a no-brainer. So he went for Hanoi Rocks. So Andy was just like, we're meant to be recording a new Apostles EP in a month or so. Would you fancy drumming on it? Would you fancy joining the band? And I was like, fucking right, I mean, that was like, well, I'd imagine if you're into football, joining your favourite team as like kind of forward or whatever it was like. I was just totally amazing. So I'm going down to London and kind of drumming for what was my favourite band at the time. I was early Apostle stuff. I still think some of the early stuff's really amazing. Actually, the more kind of experimental stuff. When they started recording records, it was probably like down the hill all the way from there. But some of the early stuff's still absolutely astounding music, and I was totally into them. And then I was in them for maybe like 2 years, and I recorded 4 4 singles with him.
But what would have been also quite important back then was the introduction of Stagecoach.
Yes, I know exactly.
The overnight bus to London
I know.
for £5.
Exactly. I know. I remember that. It was great. And I went to Stirling as well. I think it was like £7 or something.
A megabus.
I remember when it went up to 11.
Yeah.
And then I just like bunked down the train as well. Because I was like 13, 14, and I'd literally just lie under the seats. You could actually just kind of fit under the seats, and sometimes, you'd see the guy coming along checking the tickets, and you just go along, and you're just a kid. If the guy said, "Oh, have you got your tickets?" Just, "Oh, my mum's got it. She's asleep," and you'd just be like, "Okay." I never got pulled once. Never got pulled once. I did have one mental experience, which was one time when I was down in the Apostles. I was in the squad, went to score some hash from these. Squat which had been taken over by Hell's Angels, which they were dealing from. What I didn't realise was the cops had it under observation, so I went to this squat when I was like 13, 14, Hell's Angels business print, dealing flat, which they'd sort of cuckooed to score some hash, and then the cops kind of swarmed down in it, and they thought I was like a runaway and everything, and I was down to record this Apostle single, and my folks were away they were away on holiday. I didn't even maybe know where my folks were, so I couldn't get a hold of them. And then they ended up like phoning up my headmaster and saying like they put me on this train, said I had to go back to Scotland, and my headmaster was going to like pick me up at the station as like a responsible adult because my folks couldn't be contacted. So I basically just got on the train, and then I just jumped straight off because I wasn't fucking missing like recording the Apostle single. I think I just got off at the next stop, just bunked the train straight back, and within like an hour or two I was back in like this Apostle squat in Hackney. You know, kind of learning a drum parts for like going to the studio the next day.
What did the headmaster say?
I just got I got expelled from school shortly after that anyway, so he just fucking hated me. I was totally uncontrollable then. I was an absolute terror. I feel terrible.
And then Deke, where did Deke come into your life?
Well, funnily enough, Deke's always been in my life. Deke's parents were friends with my parents.
Were they? Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So Deke and his brother Donnie used to come and visit when I was, just very, very young, like years before punk, years and years before punk. And there was only one time when I was actually, when Oi Polloi had just formed, and they'd advertise in Sounds, they'd always be mentioned in Sounds, their cassettes, they were blasting the Mohicans cassette. I think that was what I was writing off for. So I'd sent off a letter to get a copy of the tape on Royal Crescent. I still remember the address, 5 Royal Crescent, Deke's old address, Deke's parents' address. And my mum was like, "Oh, we know them. That's like, remember Deke and Donnie with the red hair used to come and stay." I was going, "Oh, is that them?" And then right enough. And then so shortly after that, I went through to Edinburgh one time, met up with Deke, went to like an early practice. Yeah, I think it's before they were even gigging. They used to rehearse in a guy called Jason's Attic. Out in sort of Kingsnow kind of area. So I've just always known Deke, and then we shared a flat together for a number of years. It was me, Deke, Ian Slaughter, Pigs for Slaughter, Ian Sound Survey, and Murphy, who was drummer in the Alternative. Okay. So it was sort of Cannon Mills Anarcho squad. So we were all down there, but Deke's just always stayed good mates. And whenever they play London, he usually stays in my flat and just get a hangout. And amazing guy, amazing band as well. I mean, they're just incredible. Nearly about 40, over 40 years they've been going now. We just go from strength to strength. What a performer. The James Brown of punk.
I mean, it's amazing that any band's still going, 40 odd, 15 years down the line. It's just quite difficult to keep.
Yes, I know. Just to keep that enthusiasm, just while you even get jaded. I mean, even my fairly limited experiences, and obviously nothing in comparison with Deke. It's just like now I want to fly, I want to stay in a hotel. You know what I mean? The idea of just going somewhere and it's like, well, where are you going to... And all Deke's stories like that. I think I did a wrote for Vice about it. I mean, if I was to go to a place now and they're just like, where are we going to sleep? It's just like, oh, you sleep, in the venue. Have you not brought sleeping bags? Fuck that, man.
I told you the story.
I want some creature comforts.
When he came through to Livingston to see On Parole and the Scotties play, he introduced himself, and I think it was Gogs, and gig went on fine, no problems. I went elsewhere, came back to the house, they missed the last bus home, so they knew my mum and dad's address from the fanzine. So I went and knocked my mum and dad up.
Yeah.
You know, my mum, I've got in, my mum's like, you got two fellas staying here. I'm like, you said they know, these fellas from Edinburgh. Okay, so my mum gave them breakfast the next day, and you know, they went and got the bus. And that was my introduction to Oi Polloi. You know. I'm not sure if they'd rehearsed at that point, but you know, that was certainly had the band as a name.
Yes.
You know. So punk moved on, and you were widening your tastes.
Well, I kind of always had been. I'd always, even from, you know, the kind of early days, I'd always bought records which weren't punk records. I was always into like dance records. Yeah. You know, and as I say, from very early 80s. I mean, when the first electro albums come out, like 80, 82 or something. By 82, I was buying like electro stuff, New York stuff, and you'd get these other records that came out, you know, like your Joyce Sims, your, you know, more sort of commercial stuff. But then again, you know, that's because of exposure, you know, other than John Peel, who didn't exactly, I mean, he played a fair bit of electro and hip hop. You know, I mean, again, there was all the Sugar Hill stuff and all the Tommy Boy records, which I was getting from that age. And they must, you know, it's like the Message. I mean, when did that come out? Like 79 or 80?
No, 81, I'd say. I'd say 81, but it got re-released in it a couple of times. Right,
yeah. No, because I remember John Peel playing that, and I remember getting that around about the same time as like a 6 Minute War single. You know, the Message. It was 12 inch as well. And it cost like a packet, but I was just like, you know, probably the same amount of money that I could have got 3 other punk singles for, but I was just like, oh, I've got to get that. And I do remember, I think it was like the third 6 Minute War single, which is quite, you know, it's quite, again, Catholic taste.
Did you see them when they performed at the
Glasgow? Yes.
Playhouse.
About 84. Oh, I only saw them the once.
84.
Yeah, it was just when they done that single, We Don't Work for Free.
Yeah.
Which was pretty crap.
Yeah, I think that's when they won the downhill after that, you know. But African Bambaataa as well, he played...
I didn't see that.
He played the Cali.
Right.
84, end of 84. But they only performed 3-4 songs.
Yeah, just like a PA type thing.
No, they had a full live band. Right. They had a full live band, and they all had the uniforms on. Yeah. It was amazing, but it was only 3 or 4 songs. Yeah. That was it. They were off, you know. Yeah. And then a week after that, or 2 weeks after that, the Redskins played.
Oh, right. Oh, that tour, the Red Wedge tour.
No, it was a different one. I think it was probably one of the final tours they did, but they were a great band.
Yeah.
You know, and I think musically they were also an introduction into soul music for me. You know, because of the horns and Levi and
a lot of my mates were very into the Redskins.
Yeah. So you're just about to release I know we're skipping quite a bit, but you know, trying to keep within...
No, got me done.
You're just about to release a compilation of anarcho punk.
Indeed, on the world-renowned Optimo Espacio records, no less. Yeah. The Glasgow label. Yes, this has taken... I mean, I thought it was about 6 years. Keith was saying it was closer to 10. Since we still had the idea, it was basically myself and Keith, aka JD Twitch, DJ Twitch, who I've known since about 86, because he used to do a club called The Underground on Saturday nights at Shady Ladies. Right. When I started, the first club I did was Wednesday nights at Shady Ladies, Sex Beat. Right, so I was doing the Wednesday night, he was doing the Saturday night. Yeah. Obviously he went on to do Pure. Yeah.
But before that, they did UFO.
I
DJ'd at UFO.
Yeah. UFO was brilliant. Brilliant.
They did it.
And War as well. They did War as well. Aye. So we did that, and then I was doing Soma at the time. But you know, obviously myself and Keith have always kind of stayed in touch, and quite a similar trajectory into music. Yeah. And again, both very, very broad tastes in music. You know, broad and eclectic tastes. Yeah. So this album's taken about a long time to license all the tracks, because when we were halfway there, then you know, Keith, things came up in Keith's life. I think Keith got married, or I think maybe he's been married a couple of times since the time we were trying to get this album together. I think he got married one of the times, and then of course there was all the legal side of the Crass catalogue being sold to Derek Burkett at Ollie, as in one little independent, as they're called now. Yeah. So we had to license all the individual tracks through them. In some of the instances, the tracks which aren't on Crass Records were obviously licensed through their respective labels or, you know, the rights holders. But yeah, I mean, it's double album, double vinyl album downloads, artwork, G vouchers very, very kindly allowed us to use two of our most iconic pieces, the O America with the Statue of Liberty and of course the smiling soldier. And you know, it's got tracks by, it's like a cast of thousands. It's, you know, Crass, lots of Pink Indians, Alternative, Apostles, The Mob, Omega Tribe, Lack of Knowledge, Chumbawamba, The X. You know, all the more it's interesting. You know, not so much kind of hardcore punk stuff, but all of the more kind of interesting anarcho bands. And we've also got unreleased alternate studio tracks by Crass. We've got a kind of unreleased version of Bloody Revolutions, unreleased version of The Mob, first version they recorded of The Mob, No Doves Fly Here, Full Apostles, Mob Violence. So it should be quite a release, and oh my word, it's taken a hell of a lot of time to get it together.
Who owns all the copyright then, or the mechanical rights to all the Crass? Did people sign contracts with them, or was it a very open relationship?
You know what, I don't entirely know that. Crass were always like very together on those kind of sides. I'd imagine folk possibly did sign contracts. But even then, you know, it's like all this bollocks about what's her name from Southern had been withholding all these master reels to bands and stuff, which thankfully are now being released through Sean's label, what they call Reel Records or demo tape records or something like that. I was just like, go ahead and fucking like press them. What's going to happen? What are they going to do? They're going to like, you know, you're not going to get folk from Southern coming around and like breaking your leg. It's just like, go and do it. Nothing's going to happen. That's always been my attitude. Basically, just go for it, and what can happen if anything does happen, you deal with it then.
But because a lot of it is, you know, it's similar to the Cherry Red compilations. You do a deal and the records are being sold at a certain price.
Well, exactly.
And then 40 years later, it's been sold for, you know.
Exactly. I mean, all these things are totally 100% invalid. I mean, when you sign any contract, that contract is actually for the label to keep the record in production. If they fail to do that, which obviously, if any record has accrued such value. And nobody, I mean, there's like Crass records have actually been in production for the past 40 years, but none of these other things are. It's not like you'd be able to walk into like HMV and order a copy of the Alternative album 10 years ago. These things have been out of production. So the business has basically reneged on their side of the contract agreement. So it's invalidated. It'll never stand up in court. So these people should just go for it.
I mean, I've still got my letter from No Future telling me that they've folded and assigned their catalogue over to another record label and that they will be in touch with me shortly. Never ever got in touch with me.
At least they had the courtesy to write to you.
And that's what I would have thought. And I've spoken to them and I've done work with them and they've always said, oh, there's no money, you know. But then you realise the amount of other bands that are in similar situations that they've never accounted for any of the rights, and it's kind of like it's quite a shady business, and not even having the respect to just to inform somebody that it's coming out in CD. You know, this is what the splits are. I know there's not a lot of money involved in it. It's just a principle.
I know exactly. Honestly, the amount of I mean, I had to obviously registered with PMS recently, so I've got an agent basically chasing up all my payments for all that, and I had to make a list of all. I went something like insane, like about 180 records. It's just something absolutely bonkers. Even if it's just like one compilation, you know, one Political Asylum tracks on like some compilation or something. But it still adds up because whoever put that out might have basically had that track played on his college radio or something like that. So you know, there's a lot of money. And then when you find out that, you know, ex-band members have registered all the tracks under their name, or even just things like, you know, every now and again I'll check in Discogs. It's like, oh, you know, some label in Australia has put out a copy of that. It's like, what did you know? It's not like I'm hard to find on social media or something, you know. Just taking the piss.
No, but you had a problem recently, didn't you? With
This was some German label. Basically, originally they were going to re-release Fresh 8 demo, which I was like totally 100% up for. You know, gave them all help I possibly could, and then I just found that basically what the guy was insisting on doing was putting. I mean, the demo lasted minus the last song, which was a live song, Fresh White Poppies. So that's like 54 minutes or something like that, and you can't have anything on the side of vinyl more than 22 0.22 seconds or something.
I mean, you can,
but the sound goes shy.
Deteriorate.
Yeah.
You know?
So if you were going to have something which was like 27 minutes, the sound is just like atrocious. And I know that myself because all the Apostles records just sound so shy because that's precisely what he did. And then he wasn't getting it remastered as well. So it's just like, this is going to sound garbage.
There is a way of doing it, and you're better off to do it via DMM rather than lacquers. Because what you get there is you get the consistency with the cut rather than the human eye. You know, the human eye, kind of like where there's a bit of movement on the cut.
But people don't even generally kind of do stuff like that these days. Anyway, it's just like, I was really amazed, folk not getting white labels done. It's because the pressing plan's good. It's like, well, I don't want it to be, in this one instance where it's my record for the pressing plan not to be good. Because when we got the Part 1 reissues, eventually it was Sacred Bones in America that reissued the Part 1 Funeral Parade. But originally there was like a London label which was going to put that out. And we got the test pressings back. Thankfully, the guy... No, he didn't get the test pressings back at all. This was the whole thing. The guy didn't get any test pressings done. He just basically said, so we'll get the run. So he had 500 copies of the album delivered. Went down, picked up a couple, I was listening to it, and I was just... this sounds fucking shite. It sounds like basically it's been played down like a phone 10 years ago to somebody. And then halfway through the song, suddenly it's like beep, like a sort of code signal. I was just like, what the fuck? And then I noticed on the record, all the songs were like a kind of regimented length. Just almost looked like a kind of Serato desk, Something looked very, very wrong. And then the guy was just, they must have fucked up the pressing plan. So he went and got another 500 pressed, another 500 copies of the record. No test pressings again. And I was just like, these are just exactly the same. What the fuck is it? And of course, what it is the pressing plan. Nobody had actually been listening to the records when they were being cut. Exactly. And what this chump had done, nice guy, but obviously a bit of a fucking brain donor if he's done this. Rather than sending the pressing plant the sound files of the remaster, we had professionally remastered from the original studio tapes, because Mark Farelli still had the original studio tapes for the Part 1 releases. Rather than getting that done, okay, cheers mate, nice one. Rather than getting that done, he also had a sound file on his laptop that he just downloaded the EPs from YouTube. So he had just been sending the pressing. He'd sent the pressing plant MP3s downloaded from YouTube, which have a signal. That's how they. That's where that came from.
I'm trying to explain to an artist at the moment that he's supplied me some masters, and he's like, these masters fit all. I'm like, masters don't all fit all, because masters for vinyl are different.
Of course.
You need to take the limiters off.
He needs to send you the actual plates.
Just
forget about that.
Just take the limiters off and let the engineer do what he has to do. And he still doesn't get it, so I haven't.
What he thinks he's going to be like saving himself like £40 or something.
He doesn't understand that what he's done, because he's peaked everything out really, and I'm like, well, that's going to get a bit of distortion under when it gets cut. But it's pressing records, it's an art, and you need to have an expert kind of like doing the.
Especially the remastering as well. I mean, folk think, it's been remastered. What do you mean by remastered? I just ran it through a disk on my laptop. Just like.
No.
Steady.
I think I did a 10,000 CD run once, and there was about 30 seconds missing from the back of one of the songs, and the record label phoned me up and said, it's missing 30 seconds, it's your fault. I'm like, no, we can only press what you give us. And then so we went through this ding dong before it finally came out that he hadn't listened to the master before he sent it to us. And the engineer had made a mistake when he cut it, and so in essence it was his fault, and he had to pay for another 5,000 CDs. So you've always got to listen to your masters. I think that's the point that I'm trying to make. Chris Lowe, thank you very much for your time.
Pleasure's all mine. Thank you very much for a splendid hour.
Thank you.
Splendid blether. Nice one. Cheers.
Cheers, Chris. Rule Gun awaits.